This meditation was actually written by the late Reverend Chris Chenoweth. He was a friend of mine at Unity Village, and I've always liked it. It's a little different from what I usually say, but I thought today it would be a good time to honor him and to listen to a meditation that's a little different. And it begins like this. What a realization to know that God is here. When we're searching for divine inspiration in our lives, when we ask the question, what should I do? The answer always comes as we listen for divine guidance. God is waiting in the silence to instruct you in what you should do. Through divine inspiration, you are shown clearly what action to take, what words to speak, or what behavior to develop. This is your time, a time with God. It is a spiritual time in the kingdom of God. The silent, still voice speaks in myriad ways so that you are alert to the inspiration of the Most High. Do not be anxious. Let go and receive. Have faith that you are being guided. You are surrounded and enfolded in the light of the Christ. So take a moment to consider anything that needs resolution in your life. And then as I pray, make the words I speak be the words of your own heart. Dear God, I come to you with my human self. I come once again to feel the unshakable calm of your presence, your power, and your glory. I've tried doing things on my own. I accept your guidance. Fill me now with your guidance and clear direction. Fill me with your peace of mind and radiate perfect health throughout my body. I pray for increased energy, a quickening of my spirit. Dear God, I ask you to create new energy and motivation in my daily living. I pray for a perfection in health and an ever new aliveness. Turning to the Christ, I find the answers I seek this very day. And dear God, you are my source of unending, ever-accelerating prosperity which never fails. With unshakable faith, I'm able to go forward in my life, assured of success and happiness. And for this I am thankful. I ask you to rest for a moment in the silence of prayer and attune yourself to the stillness, the peace, the wholeness, and the comfort. And we affirm in the silence, I am a child of God. I have faith in God's Spirit to inspire me now and guide me in the way of my own good. I am a child of God in the silence. And as we bring this time to a close, feel the strong creative impulse. Feel it flowing inside of you as a direct result of divine inspiration. For we know that we have instant access to the all-knowing mind of God where perfect wisdom is available. And I claim it now for me, for you, for the world. For as we follow this wisdom, we know that all is in divine order. And so it is. Amen and amen. Well, good morning. Can't see you through my glasses. Well, the name of my talk is Divine Afflatus. And that's God inspiration.
Could you turn your speaker up a bit? We don't have our hearing devices.
Oh, you don't have, yeah.
At all. Could you make your volume a little higher?
I cannot do it.
Oh, you can't?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Is that better?
High as it goes.
As high as it goes right now. I'll speak up. How's that?
Good.
Okay. I'm practicing projecting anyway, so this will give me a great opportunity. What is divine afflatus? It's a noun and a divine inspiring of knowledge and inspiration. It's a strong creative impulse, especially as a result of that divine inspiration. And many people long to feel divine inspiration. Something so clear, so I always say, God, paint the picture in the sky so I can see what I'm supposed to do. Clive Hicks in his book Green Man wrote this: whatever happened to passion and vision and the divine afflatus in poetry? Well, Benzi Zhang wrote Paradox of Origin, Studies in Short Fiction. The miraculous spring that nourished Homer's Afflatus seems out of reach of today's writers, whose desperate yearning for inspiration only indicates the coming of an age of exhaustion. How many of you feel exhausted? Yay! Okay. So afflatus is simply a Latin word that means to blow at or breathe upon. And yes, the word flatulent comes from this word. You all know what flatulence is. You've all experienced flat. Well, I have. I admit it. So when we're receiving divine afflatus, we are receiving inspiration from the Most High. Some call it the muse. Does anybody here have a muse? When I'm writing, I ask for my muse, but sometimes she's preoccupied. When I'm trying to write a talk, and it's getting later and later. So when we receive inspiration from on high, what happens? All of a sudden, we get this energy, this motivation to get up there and do whatever we have to do. It is a wonderful feeling of being uplifted, almost pushed through to a new dimension so that we can do what we set out to do in the first place. And we do it not alone, but with our muse, with God, whatever you want to call it, so that we can write, we can sing, we can have the life we want to have. Now, many times people see life as frightening, and of course, that's one of the worst things we can do. They become frightened and dismayed because they don't really know how to access this thing we call divine afflatus. Sometimes people are ready to throw in the towel. I don't know where that expression came from, but I often wonder about it. Pardon?
Boxing.
Oh, proxing?
Boxing.
Oh, boxing! I had no idea. Well, in Joshua 1:19 it said, "Be strong and of good courage. Be not frightened, neither dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And that's the truth. That is the absolute truth. Because where is God? Within us. So if we remember that in these frightening times, we have an experience, oh yeah, we'll go away frightened. Because, like little Teresa said, I think she was a sister in some time long ago, And the little sister in the road, she said, "Be not afeared, for God is with you wherever you go." Let me tell you a story that will give you a little idea of what divine afflatus can do. There was a man who worked on a railroad, and as he rode the rails, he saw a real need for a product that everybody wanted, a pocket watch. But in those days, nobody could hardly afford one because they were made of solid gold. So this railroad man would announce at different stops when he would give them the time, when the time zone would change. And he saw the longing in the people's faces to have a watch so they could look too. This man was Richard Sears. Remember Sears and Roebuck? Well, he found a watchmaker whose name was Mr. Roebuck. And Mr. Roebuck had the ability to sit in a quiet place and make inexpensive watches, which he did. So they had a little game going on there. He would produce these watches, and people really got excited because the man, Mr. Sears, would go up and down saying, "We have watches here. Yes, you can afford them." And people began buying them. So they wanted more and more and more. Pretty soon, as people wanted more and more, poor Mr. Roebuck was having a lot of trouble keeping up because there were hundreds of thousands. But the orders were rolling in. And they didn't know what to do. And finally, Mr. Roebuck was getting so frustrated that he wanted to quit. He wanted out. And so Mr. Sears said, "Okay, you can go out." So he continued to sell these pocket watches and was very successful at it. Now, he began a small catalog. Not the ones like the big Montgomery Wards with Time or anything like that, but he had this catalog. And it talked about these watches. Well, then it got really fierce. But he found other people to make the watches, and they became very popular. So that in 1895, they had Mr. Roebuck going crazy. He wanted out again, and so Mr. Sears let him out. I haven't read this story for a long time, but one thing I do, I'm trying to use up my green paper. And it's sticking together. I must have had it for 50 years now. Well, the business continued to flourish, and they met the demand somehow. There were struggles involved, but they began to have other orders, other things that were being made. So the whole thing blew up, and it became wonderful. Became a big, big industry. Do we still have Searses around now? I haven't seen too many, yeah. Well, they met the demand, and Sears brought in a new partner called Julius Rosenwart. And he brought on a pants line. So as you see, he kept bringing people on. And so by the time the Great Depression hit, they had 90,000 orders a day coming in, which was quite a lot for those days. When the Great Depression hit, an elderly man came to Sears. His health was bad. He was bent over from the strain of living. He hobbled up to Sears' office. He said, "Mr. Sears, my family and I are starving. Can you give me my job? I'll sweep. I'll be a store clerk. I'll work in the warehouse. I desperately need employment." And that elderly man was Mr. Roebuck. How many of you knew the story before? I found it fascinating. So we need to ask ourselves, am I a Sears or am I a Roebuck? Do we give up or do we press on? If we have a good idea, if we want to do something. I'm sorry, I'm having a bit. Let me take a drink. This is water, I assure you. So no matter what the situation we're dealing with, the entire matter can be turned over to our higher power. You know, that's the great thing about unity. We tell people how to live in a manner in which they can be successful. When you plan something, make sure you take God as your partner. And here's what I do. I just say, well, now this is where I want to go. This is my end result. Show me the way. And step by step, that's how God works. Not with a great big Like I like to play the lottery once in a while, and I hope that I hit for $1 million so I can do the things I want to do. I've never hit. And let me tell you, one time I played and I won $40. Usually I don't win. You know what those clerks said to me? That's the most money I've ever seen. So don't play. So let's decide. Oh, these are messing me up. Let's make a choice to write Divine Afflatus on that towel. Have your imaginary towel and write Divine Afflatus and send it up to heaven. Wave it. Come on, God, show me the way. The Pittsburgh Pirates, I come from Pittsburgh, had a towel in which they called the Terrible Towel. And that was supposed to help them win. And many times it did. Pittsburgh has a good history of winning a lot of football games. Well, we can have a Divine Afflatus towel also. We can wave our banner. In fact, you could even make one up if you want to. And when you're exhausted, when you're filled with worry and have slipped back into human thought, then what you can do is take that ultimate step of letting go. Letting go. As simple as that. I choose not to worry about this. I choose to maybe go to a hot dog somewhere and get it off my mind. And I'll tell you a story that happened to me this week. Now, I had no desire to buy a new car. I was on a 3-year lease, and I'm only 2 years, I'm not even 2 years into it. And my favorite man, the guy who sells me all my Hondas, kept calling, and I kept not answering. He said, he went, Rose, I have this deal for you. He said, I have a 2026 Honda for you, no money down, you can have it, you have no money down, and your payment will go down, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I'm going, ha, ha, ha. I've been through this before. No, I'm not doing it. Well, finally, on the 5th call, I said, Paul, what do you want? He said, I'm not kidding. He said, no money down. You can have this 2026. We'll buy out your lease. And what else did he say? Oh, your payment will go down. I said, if I come out there, I've been out of work for 10 months. And I have to go through that routine. I'm just going to walk right out. He said, no, it's true. So I went out, and I drove my new 2026 home on Monday. Divine Afflatus, because they don't have enough used cars on their lot. So they're willing to do anything. My car only had 19,000 miles on it. So that's kind of like good. And it wasn't banged up or anything. Well, maybe a little. He said, this is not the same car that went out of here. I said, I know. I hit it once. When I have a rural mailbox, so every time I go down there to get it, my mirror hits the... Well, I can't help it. I'm old. So I thought it wasn't too bad. But anyhow, it has everything on it, and it has that feature, and I'm going to get out of this in a minute, but it has this feature where I can warm up my car remotely. I've always wanted one. But no money was exchanged. He was not lying to me. And I am now the proud... You know what happened yesterday? Can I just say this real quick? I was driving very fast, but not as fast as you could drive, because it was a narrow place. And a man came up behind me, and there were all these things that were there for when they closed the... what is that? An exit. So I thought, oh my God, he's going to hit me from behind. He was really going fast. He did a very smart thing, and I'm grateful, grateful. He hit instead of hitting me, he chose to hit those orange things. And up they went. And then he went in front of me, and more went up. None of them hit me. None of them hit me. So I say, when you say the prayer for protection, every day, when you start the day, it really helps. Okay, so that's my Divine Afflatus. I actually did not think I would buy a car again. And it did reduce my payment, not by much. But my payment was coming up, and I didn't have to pay it on the old car. So I said to myself, I like Divine Afflatus. Thing is, don't let the past hold you back. No matter what has happened in the past, you don't have to worry about it. It's over. And the best thing we can do is get ourselves out of a closet of our mind being locked into the past. I don't care what you've done. It doesn't matter. It's over. And when we find the love within ourselves, the love for ourselves and for the divine baby that we carry in us, think of it that way. We are filled with life. And we're children of a king. So occasionally I experience that mind lock, and I can't seem to do anything about it. And then I remember that nothing I've done before was that bad anyway. It might have been embarrassing. Yeah, we get embarrassed. But we can experience real growth through accepting the now. I put aside the overwhelming list of what I have to do, and I concentrate on one. And then when I've done that one, I go to the next one. And if it doesn't get done, you have to know about priorities, though. You have to pick the one that needs to be done first. So do you sometimes feel overwhelmed spiritually? Do you feel overwhelmed by all the books, the teachings, and things that we come up with, all the workshops to go to? It's just going to save your life right now if you take it. So people fall into this habit of thinking just one more thing, one more book, one more this. It's not that it's bad, but really, all that you need is within you. You just got to get still enough to listen. And that's where divine Afflatus comes in. Sometimes you want to know, okay, God, tell me the right way to go. And there's a way you can do that. And I read this in a book many years ago. You can give yourself signs, like stop signs. If it's green, it means go. If it's red, it means no. And if it's yellow, what does it mean? Maybe. Explore it further. And sometimes I do that and it really helps because I'll see a little flash of green or a little flash of red. And sometimes our ego wants something, but the Lord of our being wants something else for us. So you can deal with this too. Any way you can find your mind absorbed in one way or another, yours might be different than mine. The best thing to do with your worries, your troubles, are to pray and then to let it go. I'm really serious. It works beautifully. Even God took 7 days to create the earth, right? And everything in it. With divine Afflatus, with that spirit, that breath of life itself, we can find our way through any kind of fog, like I did this morning. It was really foggy. And I asked God, what should I do? God did not tell me to go faster. Well, you know how I am. So imagine that we're in a boat in a harbor. Let me just give you one more story. There's a man who has a brand new boat. He loves his boat. Ooh, he's out in the water. He's proud of it. And he goes out for the first time, and he's really enjoying this ride. All of a sudden, he sees this other boat coming right at him. And so he yells out, hey, your boat's coming straight for me. And move your boat. And the boat keeps on coming. In a straight collision, he says to himself, you know, I have the right of way. How many times have you said that? I have the right of way. Do you? What happens is, he said, I've read the manual. I'm going to stay right here. I refuse to move my boat. I'm right, he yells. Move your boat. I have the right way. I am right. You have to move your boat. There is no answer, and the boat keeps coming. And he begins shouting louder and louder. Move your boat, move your boat. Pretty soon, crash. It knocks the man down, and pretty soon he gets up, and he looks into the other boat, and he sees that no one is in it. No one is in that boat. And so a lot of times, we refuse to move and we crash. We find things don't work so well. Isn't that the way it is? We refuse to move from where we are to where we want to go. It can be scary. So we'll be able to move better after the crash because we've learned a lesson. We've learned to not judge. We've learned not to keep yelling and screaming and saying, it's my way or the highway. Sometimes we forget we were designed to take off, to take rests, to have periods of, I love fall. And usually I go through it so fast and I'm doing so much. But this year I changed. I decided I'm going to enjoy fall. So I took little breaks. I went out on my porch and looked at the beautiful trees changing. It was wonderful. I loved coming out here because all the leaves were changing. And the sunlight on them was beautiful. So praying for divine inspiration and waiting for divine inspiration is the one tool that works every time. Look to the Bible. There's a whole collection of things in the Bible that will give you good information, particularly in Deuteronomy and Isaiah. Start reading them. Now, you have to get over the ones that don't really relate to our time. But like one of them, I believe it is in Isaiah 61, and it's, arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has shone upon you. Say that to yourself in the morning. Arise, shine, Rose. And I do sometimes. Look to other information. I follow a certain monk, and he's given me a lot of ideas on how I can stay calm. I suggest you look for people and situations that give you a lot of calm. You know, we're so easily turned by people who call and want to talk about the conditions of the world or the negative information. I suggest you say, what good happened to you today? What good happened? I'm trying not to say, how are you, when I see somebody. Tell me something good that happened to you this week. Tell me something positive. Remember the miracles in your life. Everyday people give us miracles. I have a friend who comes and helps me in my house, which is wonderful. In Mark 11:23, we said, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done to him. As I looked at the construction out there, we're moving mountains. Perhaps Jesus was prophetic in seeing that mountains could be moved with heavy equipment. It doesn't have to be fancy, like the mountain doesn't have to lift up and just go, but it can be done. The most difficult question is this: am I really receiving divine inspiration, or mine is chatter? You know that little ego friend of ours? Sometimes it gives us false information, only because it's scared. And you could be like Caruso and say, little me, sit down. This is the big me, speak. I've always liked that. If you have a serious challenge with health, the things that we handle, finances, relationships, we can seek for God's guidance, but we have to look at all things in divine order. And so we sit in silence and just listen. And oftentimes it may come a day later, maybe while you're washing the dishes, when your mind is not actively trying to worry. The art of spiritual discernment. One of the first steps on the spiritual journey is the application of some principles and standards of application. Myrtle Fillmore, in her volume Healing Letters, reminds us of the importance of discernment when she noted this: I often think these days that we are in too much of a rush. I wonder what she'd say now. Trying to do too much and still failing to discern and do the very things that would mean most. And maybe that's playing with your cat, taking your wife to dinner, take your husband to dinner. So first we apply our own wisdom to the situation, and then we want to consult maybe our spiritual community. If you trust somebody and they trust you, go to someone else and say, I'm toying around with this. Should I do this or not? Can you hear me out? Enlightenment is not about learning anything. You cannot learn to be enlightened. The fact, enlightening is actually the art of unlearning. You can look at it that way. Unlearning all the nonsense we have learned since we were little. And this was written by Reverend John McLaughlin. In fact, enlightenment is actually the art of unlearning. The more you know, the more you have to let go. And that's true. To begin with, know, he's still quoting, to begin with, know by experience the difference between mind and consciousness. Now that was interesting to me. I know John. He had a woman by the name of Mira Alfas, a woman known as the Mother. And by consciousness, she means the divine essence of authentic wisdom through divine Afflatus. Letting Spirit give you that answer. Picture Spirit actually giving you an answer with a hand or coming down from heaven, whatever works for you. Now, suggestions to develop, I like this, suggestions to validate personal guidance. God teaches step by step. When a message comes, check the source to make sure ego has not tainted it. For example, the message is to stop taking your medicine. You know anybody like that? I know a lady who does not ever follow the doctor's orders. She will, in fact, if he says you have to have this every day, she'll take it every 3 days. I don't know what perpetrates that, but it's what happens. It's the voice telling you something you want to hear. You're going to make a lot of money. You're going to be the chosen one. If the message inflates your image, watch out. Have confirmations for guidance appear in your life? Have there been unexpected opportunities or chance meetings? Has a reading or passage jumped out at you? Are you uncritically interpreting ambiguous wording as oneness? So what we're looking for is, you know how we have this phishing now in our lives? And we have all these things, spam. It's the same thing. Our ego will spam us. So I'm not going to go through this whole list, but I wanted to give you some ideas for this week. Practice evaluating your guidance using the discernment principle listed above. Practice the presence. We do increase our ability to discern as a result of practicing listening from the divine center. In Romans 8:31 it says, if God be for us, who can be against us? And here is an interesting piece as I close. A man fell into a pit and he couldn't get himself out. A subjective person came along and said, you know, I feel for you down there. An objective person comes along and said, you know, it's logical that someone would fall down there. A Pharisee said, only bad people fall into the pit. A mathematician calculated how he fell into the pit. A news reporter wanted an exclusive story on the pit. The judgmental Christian came along and said, you deserve your pit. The IRS man comes and asks if he was paying taxes on his pit. A self-pitying person said, oh, you haven't seen anything until you've seen my pit. A charismatic said, just confess that you're not in the pit. I am not in the pit. I'm not in the pit. An optimist says, things could be worse, and a pessimist will say, things will get worse. So when I think of all this stuff, I think we're like in a maze. It's not much different than what we're living today. It's a maze out there. And how do we manage through it? God, seeing the man, gave comfort, reassurance, and the power to get out of the pit. And so today, whatever pit you have been in or still in, know that God is your help in every need, and God works through us, and God is all-powerful. And I know that if you knew how powerful you were, and if I knew how powerful I am, it would be amazing. And so trust the process. Trust. The divine spirit is with you. The air, we always think of the breath of God. Think of that breath blessing you today, this morning, with something special to get you out of the pit. God bless you.